folks at home, I'm gonna say at home. I guess a lot of folks are at home, but at any rate, what do I know? Cool. So share screen. I'll share this one. Way, share, present. Cool. All right. So getting ready for the advanced cybersecurity PD. It's May, the year 2021, not 2020. Geez, I've been doing that like for the last week. I've been putting 2020 on everything instead of 2021. I've been feeling rough. 2020 was a rough year. I'll go ahead and fix that for you. Check this out. Time travel. So this is really not a presentation. This is talking points. These are questions that I collected from other people, questions that I thought some people like you might have. So I might even take a minute to just sort of go around the room. I can see everybody that's in the meeting on the screen at one time right now. So I'll start with you, Jennifer, if you're at the top. Where are you from? What are you teaching? So on and so forth.
Okay. And yes, yes, I am. I'm sorry, I do have a class in here right now, so I'm trying to watch them too. Yes, I'm Jennifer. I teach at Conway Junior High School. I was originally a business teacher. I've been teaching programming for about 4 years now. And we are going to start cybersecurity next year. We're going to offer programming and cybersecurity to both our 8th and 9th graders for credit. To meet the graduation requirement. So my knowledge about cybersecurity is zero. And so I feel like I have finally learned programming 1 and Java, and feel like I can teach that and got that down. So now I'm up for a new challenge of cybersecurity. I am looking at the curriculum that is provided by, I think it's Virtual Arkansas. I get all the virtual schools different confused, but I think it was Virtual Arkansas that was recommended. They have a course on Canvas for cybersecurity that I am looking into.
I'm muted and my dogs are here. So welcome to real life, y'all. So Vince, I see you're next on the list. How about yourself?
Vince Matthews. I teach at Hot Springs High School. I've been teaching robotics and computer programming. This is my 3rd year. We kind of opened up a AP class-ish. It had like 1 student in it, so I don't know if it really counts. But and I'm interested in adding a pathway in cybersecurity just because it seems like a lot of bang that we could get for our buck. And it could also do a lot to change the trajectory of a lot of my students, you know, career-wise and financial-wise, if they were to go into that as a field.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so Travis, I see you're next.
Travis Limbaugh. I work for Arkansas Virtual Academy, just one of those virtuals to confuse you.
Okay.
Everything. This is my first year teaching computer science.
Okay.
We currently have a mobile apps pathway, networking pathway, cybersecurity pathway, web development, and next year we're adding gaming, game development. And like I said, first year teaching it. I've previously taught math. I do have a minor in computer science and some practical application from previous career, but not a lot. So,
I'm sorry. The bell rang. Did you say you worked for Virtual Arkansas?
Arkansas Virtual Academy.
Okay, and that's different.
Yes.
Okay.
Virtual Arkansas provides curriculum to Arkansas schools, and Arkansas Virtual Academy is a school.
Okay. So I guess I was right. It is.
Yes.
But whatever I said, I can't remember now. Virtual Arkansas that has the curriculum. Okay.
But I am the computer science department right now for the school, so I teach all of it.
Okay. Cool deal. All right, and then how about you, Keith?
Right. Keith, I work currently at Rogers New Tech High School up in Northwest Arkansas. I actually have some experience with cybersecurity. I piloted the course for Project Lead the Way about 3 years ago when I was in South Carolina.
Oh.
I only got to teach it 1 year, unfortunately, because then I moved. But we're looking to try to add it in not next year, but the year after. And then currently next year I'm doing game design, CSA, CSP, intro programming, and a bunch of independent studies. So I might actually have an independent study student who wants to do cybersecurity. So that'll fall into place nicely.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Alex, you're on here. I'd like you to introduce yourself.
I'm Alex Moeller. I'm a computer science specialist here in the state. One of my main interests is cybersecurity, and I taught it when I was in the classroom. I just kind of popped in and just to kind of see what y'all are doing, and I would be happy to answer any questions if y'all have any about any of this as well. So,
thank you. Well, guys, like I said, this is just an opportunity for you to ask questions. One thing that I plan to do is I kind of wanted to look at the pregame document. There's a lot of colors on it. It's brightly colored. What do the colors mean? Obviously, it says it in the document, but just kind of wanted to talk about some of those things and then just sort of alleviate fears, concerns. I'll tell you a bit about myself. Eli McRae, computer science specialist, formerly housed at Wilbur. Now I'm kind of a nomad. I live and work out of Fort Smith most of the time, but we are statewide specialists. That means I'm responsible for Northeast Arkansas, I'm responsible for Southwest Arkansas, North Central Arkansas, so on and so forth. Northwest Arkansas, obviously. And so you guys might have a specialist that's in your area already that maybe you're familiar with. In Central Arkansas, you probably worked with Tammy Glass or Jim at Conway, for instance, as Arch Ford, if I'm not mistaken. And you've gone to PDs there. The cybersecurity ones, generally, I think the last couple of years, they've been online. The 2 years prior to that, we've had them at a couple of different co-ops. It's kind of been my baby for the longest time. I think I built the first iteration of the cybersecurity PD. I think Alex, when you were in the class, you were in one of my PDs. I don't remember if it was at Arch Ford or if it was at Wilbur. But I was glad that you're there. I'm not a traditional educator. That's one of the things that I almost always start with. I don't come from a classroom. I come from I guess you can call it industry. I've an military instructor at the 223rd Cyber Operations Squadron at Little Rock Air Force Base. So the majority of my professional teaching experience is teaching adults, not students. So one thing that I kind of come with, and I always give this as a caveat, that doesn't mean that I can't have the conversation with you. Just because I'm not trained as a traditional educator doesn't mean I can't talk about how to work in a classroom. And I think where I kind of come from, it's like I was a student that was maybe hard to reach. And I want to help other people reach students that were like me. Some of you, Vince, I think you already called out, you said you wanted to change the trajectory of some of your students. I was kicked out of every computer lab since like the second grade because I was just doing stuff. And so like, I want us to have an opportunity to recognize that as not just some miscreant that's doing bad things on the network, but as a potential source of talent, right? And how can we channel that, redirect it? My overarching goal for the cybersecurity standards is really like, I want to reshape the conversation we have about hackers, right? And what it means to be a hacker. I wear that badge proudly. I am, if I don't have any of my business cards, but it says hack the planet right on there, right? I want to be the chief hacking officer at the Arkansas Department of Education Computer Science Initiative. I want that to be my title, the chief hacking officer. I'm not afraid of it at all. That's a lot of times it's a scary thing to just sort of start that conversation. Oh, we're talking about hacking. That's illegal, right? Well, no, it's not. That's the shortest answer I can give you. No. And so I want to change the narrative about some of that. So I'm going to ask you guys these questions. And these are questions that people ask me. These are questions I have of you. These are questions I think people like you might have. These are questions that non-educators ask me. So I'm literally, when I see these questions on here, this is not like a rhetorical question. I'm really asking you, in your opinion, what is cybersecurity? I can put somebody on the spot. Somebody wants to chime in. And you're not wrong, whatever your answer is. Like, this is your opinion, your thought, your current understanding, your background, all that. So
yeah, I'll jump in. And like you, I have a military background, so a lot of my practical comes from little dabbles in the military there. But security to me, and cyber fits right into that, is just making sure that for the cybersecurity, it's that your networks and your programs are accessed by the people that are supposed to in the way they're supposed to do it, and not by people that are trying to get around the proper channels. It's just locking those gates.
Okay, that's a fair assessment, I'd say. Anybody else have any other ideas?
Well, security is like making things safe. And to me, the cyber part is just making things online safe. And there's probably a ton of different levels to it. The same way at my house, I can start with shutting the windows and locking the doors. That's one level of security, or I could have a deadbolt, which would be a whole different one, or, up to fancy alarm systems and all kinds of stuff if I want to make my house safe. And I would imagine that it's kind of the same thing on the computer, that there's a whole lot of levels of safe that we could try to make it.
Yeah.
And, especially now that it's been really big in the news with like that Colonial Pipeline and a few other things. So cybersecurity seems to be quite the fashionable topic.
Okay. What are some of the other questions? Anybody have any thoughts on those?
I can chime in on the second bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason everybody's teaching, or somebody should teach it, is there's no place in the United States right now that has more job openings.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a strong economic drive. Yeah.
Going. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely openings. There's definitely opportunities, especially for students to go into that path. And I think it's really cool because every student that I've taught cybersecurity to has always come into it with the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to learn how to hack. And then you don't teach them how to hack, and you teach them all the other stuff, and they walk away and they were like, wow, that was actually probably just as cool.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to hear. So, okay. Anyone else? Other ideas? Like why you specifically are teaching it? Jennifer, you chimed in earlier, and I appreciate one thing you said is that you wanted to challenge yourself, and I really respect that. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, I was told to pick a class, that we were going to add a computer science class. And I guess whatever I picked, the high school was going to follow to create that pathway. And so I visited with them, and we, like the person before me just said, cybersecurity is where the jobs are now, and that seems to be where things are heading. And so we decided to start with cybersecurity.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Thank you. So these are more questions. It's a bunch of questions, y'all. This is a conversation. So what do you think an advanced PD should look like?
Well, I thought I really need a beginner PD for cybersecurity, but there was nothing offered for that. And so I'm taking this advanced one, but I'm in no way advanced. But I have started watching some of those videos and trying to learn some of the stuff. But yeah, I need like a, cybersecurity for dummies or cybersecurity 101 to start with before I move to advanced.
Okay. Who else?
Yeah, I agree with her because a lot of these multiple pathways we have now, a lot of it's all advanced to me. I mean, if you don't know anything, then and every bit of it is advanced. And I would have an impossible time differentiating between what would be a year 1 or a year 2 or a year 3 level of complexity, because every bit of it's over my head. And so it's kind of hard to tell what's what.
Okay. That's real. I can appreciate that. Anyone else? There's no order necessarily in these questions. If you wanted to pick the third bullet or the second bullet first, it doesn't matter. No? Okay.
Well, I mean, this is going to be an advanced PD because cybersecurity is just such a broad range of topics that you can implement or teach. And I mean, even in my 1 year of doing it and working through the pilot program over a summer, I still feel like I don't even have, the smallest amount, like 20-25% of the knowledge that I would need to go for 3 years with this. Yeah. So I totally agree with everybody else.
So is it your experience that, and again, because I'm not a traditional educator, I don't have that experience of going to an advanced English Comp 2 PD, right? And finding out what all it takes to teach that English composition course. Is your expectation that you're going to come away from an advanced Algebra 2 professional development with all the things you need, or even an introduction to Algebra 2, teaching Algebra 2? Are you going to come away with all the things you need?
For me, I would never make that assumption. I mean, I taught Project Lead the Way for 8 years and did 10 different certifications with them. And I never came out of one of those with having everything. Okay. There's not enough time, in that small little window of PD. But I think at least it gives you that like general base or foundation. And then it's up to you to take it to where you want it to go.
So I've kind of heard a couple of folks say, and this is something I've always tried to reiterate time and time again, this is an advanced PD because this advanced cybersecurity PD is advanced because it is the next thing you would see, right? It is advanced only in that it is beyond the high school. And we've kind of codified a little bit of that with the Educators Academy, as it's aligned after you go through the high school, the 2 weeks of the Educators Academy, and then you pick an advanced training. And I think that's true of most of our professional developments. Yeah, you have to come in with some experience, but you could take this PD, and particularly because of the way I envision it, the information being shared to you, is a lot of this starts with a conversation. You have a conversation about a handful of things, and everyone has the right to participate in a conversation. So it doesn't matter if you come with 20 years of cybersecurity experience or 20 years of programming or networking experience, you can come and have a conversation. And then you do that conversation again. And then you apply a little bit of something, and then you do something more on top of that. So I think I say this in a little later slide, so I might be jumping ahead of myself, but you could take this PD 3 different times and come away with 5 different things each time. There's so much, as Keith, you pointed out, there's so much to know that it's not, here's how you do the quadratic formula. There's going to be little tidbits in there. There are tools that you can actually take back, lessons that you could hopefully implement, things like that. But so much of this is really, you'll notice on there, I have this idea of cultural appreciation. And I think that that's really what I want to impart to all of you, an appreciation for hacker culture. And in doing that, if you understand how things are made, you understand how people break things, right? Or how people can break things. So me personally, I told you I was kicked out of all the computer labs. That is a badge of honor of sorts. I'm not super proud of that. But when I was in school, someone had an opportunity to make my life not what it is today. They had an opportunity to strip away all future opportunities from me, and they chose not to. I want people like you that are in your position to recognize what those people might be, I don't know, thinking, how they're going through things, how they approach the world. They might have this mindset. And so what this PD does is gives you the opportunity to sort of build war stories, to sort of relate to those people. If you, and maybe in sort of maybe a grandiose way, discover yourself. Right? Maybe you, in fact, are a hacker, right? Maybe that doesn't have to be a bad word. And so some of the questions that people had related to hacker culture. And when I say culture, I do, in fact, mean that it is a full culture with myths and legends and drama, interpersonal dynamics, all of these kinds of things, just like any other culture you would encounter. I don't know, is fishing culture, like bass fishing culture, a thing? People who are noodling, they might be a certain kind of human being that just wanders into a lake and sticks their arm in a hole. That would never be me. So like maybe it's those kinds of people, right? They have their own culture. So do hackers. There's a certain set of traits that we're going to talk about, and hopefully dispel some notions. I think on the previous slide I said demystify it. I want to take a lot of the magic out of what cybersecurity is. People assume that it's something that you can only discuss once you've crossed a certain threshold. And I don't think that's true. That's not what I believe about cybersecurity. I want any and all people to come and have the conversation. And we'll talk about what some of those things are. So right here I have, how do you teach something that you aren't well versed in? Well, you got it. Sorry, I got dogs. Welcome to the real world. Haru, go lay down, buddy. But, how do you teach something you aren't well versed in? And I think part of that is like you need to give yourself permission to not know everything. I've been doing this for approaching 20 years. When I say doing this, I really mean to say, doing hackery things for 20 years. And I don't know, I learn stuff every day. I'm preparing this professional development and I'm still learning things to share with you on a regular basis. So that's, like maybe just give yourself that license to not know everything. Be comfortable learning along with your students. Be comfortable learning from your students. I think, again, the best way for you, and you guys are teachers, you probably know this already, the fastest way to learn something in a lot of instances is to try to teach it to someone, particularly someone you might think knows it better than you. So, and just be humble about it. If you don't know something, own up to it and try to learn it on the spot. And I think that helps me. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes during the PD. I don't know what they're going to be yet, but I'm probably going to do something wrong. I'm going to do my best to not BS anybody and blow through it. I'm going to try my best to have that be an authentic experience where we're learning something together. And so there's that. So how do you do it if you're only tangentially interested in it? That was something like, there are some people that have been through my PD in the past and they have, like, it's not their passion. They're kind of being told that cybersecurity is an in-demand field and we need someone to teach it, and that somebody is you. You know what I mean? That's hard. I get that. And I honestly, for the last couple of weeks, I've been struggling, almost existential. It's like, how could I contribute anything to somebody in that position? And I was thinking about it, and I pulled into the driveway after taking my daughter to school, and I came up with this idea. I was like, I just said the word oh gosh, what did I say? Art appreciation, right? And there's an art appreciation class in some college, right? There's music appreciation. And I thought about that. I was like, oh man, I don't have to be an artist to help you learn what's interesting about art, right? So even if you don't feel like you have the technical skills to do all of the hacking, to do all of the defending of a network, so on and so forth, you can still share information with people. It's a conversation. We can talk about things. So I have some links in the bottom of this slide. I'll shoot them to you guys in the Slack. I'm sorry, not the Slack. I'm sorry, the chat momentarily, certainly before we depart. But I did want to sort of give you guys, this is like a preview of one of the things that I want to, and this is new to this version of the presentation. In case you weren't aware, these are all new standards. So if you've been to the presentation in the past, you're gonna see entirely new content with regards to like how they map to standards. But this is something that I think this will be particularly interesting to help reinforce that idea that you don't have to have a high technical level in order to be able to have this conversation. So to play the game, it's really just a willing spirit. That's all you really need. So you guys have some programming experience, so you understand the notion of input and output. You've heard of garbage in, garbage out, right? So how are we able to leverage input and output in any given system? So these things, if you can talk about these things every day for the next 30 days, think about when you went to the DMV to get your new driver's license, did they, what information do you give them that you control? When you go to order food, when you go to pick up your mobile order, what information do you provide that influences that transaction? And consequently, how does that input, have bearing on the output of that particular transaction? So something to think about. When you talk about the second point here is like perspective and or context. In a different circumstance, if I conduct myself a certain way, how does that affect the outcome of that particular scenario? Trust and consent. These are things that I think are very important for us to talk about. In what ways did we abuse trust today? That's a question that I will likely ask you, because I think it hits home pretty hard, I'd say. And when I said abuse trust, not use trust or leverage trust. Did we, in the course of us, breaking into things, what forms of trust, what assumptions about trustworthiness were violated? Consent is obviously, an agreement between people and understanding. We'll talk a little bit about what that means in the overall context, not just in terms of like ethics, but what it means to like deceive and deception and things like that. So prior knowledge, like what did you use today that you learned 3 years ago, 5 years ago? And in what context could you have, applied what you learned today in the future? And then the last point is a little bit, we'll talk about the technical nature of that during the PD, but the operational security, military folks probably heard about that, OPSEC, and then forensic artifacts. We'll talk about what those things are as well. But our operational security is basically the set of actions we take on a daily basis to keep ourselves safe. And then forensic artifacts are things that people can identify and attribute to us as individuals. So, or at least be uniquely identified. So those are 5 things that we're going to try to talk about every day. And you can almost apply those questions to every lab, every sub-bullet, every item. You can talk about these things and you can have a long conversation with your students. So even if you're teaching cybersecurity at the conversation level in your classroom and you don't spend a whole lot of time on keyboard, I think you'd be missing out on a lot of stuff, but you're not missing out on everything. Just like the other programming tracks, not everyone that goes through this pathway is going to be a cybersecurity engineer. What they are going to be is aware of how people abuse their trust and fall victim, and then make them fall victim to phishing emails or scam emails, right? They're going to understand better why they shouldn't just install apps blindly, right? Or why they shouldn't just hit next on the install, right? Because they've given some form of consent in that way. And just by using that prior knowledge of going through this course, they're going to understand how applications are made and how people commonly attack applications. So they can spot a potentially vulnerable application from an invulnerable, or not invulnerable, but a less vulnerable application. So all of those things tie in to real conversations about cybersecurity, and you too can participate in it. So anyway, what are the requirements for the PD? And again, I said the short answer is just a willing spirit. You have to want to come there. You're going to get too much information in 5 days. That's why I would love to run it again during the school year. We'll see you at that session too. Right. So one thing I want to do is I want to give you guys these links, and it's really the end of the slides. You can see there's only 6 slides, not a whole lot going on there. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to put this into the chat, wherever that happens to be. Chat, right there. It should take you to a document remarkably similar to this. So I did my best to give you a fair amount of exposition up here, telling you what this is, what this document represents. It's color coordinated. I don't know if that matters to you. But let's see here. It's basically just telling you these are soft requirements. If you came to the PD day of, didn't have any of these things done, I'm not going to kick you out. You won't have maximized your own potential for, to get the most out of the experience, because we're going to have to spend time getting you up to speed, installing software, things of that nature. But you're welcome to come and hang out and have a conversation. So what does this say? One thing to take away from this is that most of the videos that I reference are less than 20 minutes. And this is just a dump, a bunch of YouTube videos. I call out to the right side of them how long they are. So bear that in mind. I'm not trying to say you have to do all of these things or else you can't get in. You're not welcome to the party if that's the case or whatever. Not at all. One thing that is kind of rough on folks is getting multiple screens, and I call that out right here. You don't need both screens to be like these beefy computers. I like for us to be able to leverage VirtualBox, but it's not necessarily a requirement. VirtualBox just sort of allows you to have everything nice and tightly isolated from your your main computer. So if this is your daily driver laptop, you don't have to worry about misconfiguring something on that computer such that, for this hacking PD that breaks something else in your day-to-day activities. You can have a sort of a box that you can turn on, turn off. And most computers since 2016 have the ability to do everything well within reason. So Chromebooks, I would say, are out as far as the actual VirtualBox machine itself. However, this highlighted portion where it says you'll be best served by having 2 screens or 2 devices. The idea is that you have one device to sort of watch the presentation, do research on, and then another machine that you can sort of do the activity on as well. That way you're not having to switch back and forth. Remember, if you copy and paste between the things, if you have 2 screens, that makes it a lot easier. You can do that. We've had people in the past join in on their phone so that they try to watch it on their phone or a tablet and then follow along on their computer as well. So that's a possibility. Again, if you happen to have a Raspberry Pi in your classroom or something, you can repurpose that as the Zoom Connect device. You can go to the website. Anything that has a web browser pretty much can connect to Zoom, a modern web browser. So is this on track with what you guys are expecting so far? Like, my plan is right now to tell you which one of these things, maybe look at VirtualBox real quick, talk to you a little bit about that. Is that in line with what you had in mind? You want to do something different? I'm willing to deviate from this.
I have one question.
Yep.
Are we going to spend any time learning about the cyber range and are using it at all? Because I've heard talk about it, but like I got zero clue how that would work, or if it would work in a class, or if it is even important at all.
I'm gonna tell you about it, but we're not going to spend any time leveraging it. We're going to be leveraging some other resources, particularly another platform. It's really about the connectivity to the and the scheduling of that makes it harder to scale. I'm going to give you the point of contact for how you can register and coordinate time for your classroom to be able to connect into it. And John Black is the gentleman at UCA that manages the cyber range, and what that will like. He even comes with like lessons, and so he's a great resource to have access to. He'll be able to walk you through a lesson, but it's not something you're going to use on a day-to-day basis in your classroom anyway. That's not really how it's engineered. But yeah, well, I'm definitely going to make sure that you have access to those resources. Those will be a day 5 thing, because we are going to get through some technical material too. So stuff that you would employ on the range.
Just a tidbit of information. John Black, I have his son in programming class right now.
Oh, good.
So when I found out I was teaching cybersecurity, I did message him and be like, help.
Good.
And he said that he was going to be getting some lessons together and that sort of thing this summer for cybersecurity. Yeah. And he recommended the cyber.org website that I believe Mr. Matthews recommended earlier. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And we have content that we've built out that are modules, not curriculum, not a full-blown curriculum or anything, but modules that you can use and leverage that leverage the cyber range. So,
and I think the Virtual Arkansas one uses the UALR cyber range.
Yeah. So the way that the pathways are architected, year 1 and year 2 incorporate aspects of the cyber arena, what is branded as now. And that formerly the cyber gym. I know there's a lot of cyber somethings, right? But the cyber arena is what Virtual Arkansas incorporates aspects of, but it in and of itself is just a tool to learn some of those concepts. You can learn all these concepts without the cyber gym, the cyber range, cyber arena, or any of the platforms that I'm going to show you. So it's just, these are nice kind of one-stop shopping packaged experiences. So, all right, let's say one-stop shopping for that particular concept and lesson. So, well, cool. I'm going to look at some of these. And if you guys have you guys already messed with VirtualBox before? Am I preaching to the choir on this a little bit? No?
I installed it a week ago.
Installed it a week ago? Okay. So I'll show you this real quick. So what we're doing, the reason we're using VirtualBox, and look at this busy chart I hit you with right off the bat. You don't got to learn about any of these numbers. Well, not right now anyway. But understand that everything in this little bubble is simulated, right? What it allows you to do is simulate one or more computers inside of a real computer. That's what VirtualBox allows you to do. There are different ways that you can configure this application that makes the simulated computer inside of these little bubbles here, this cloud. It can make these simulated computers believe that it is a real boy and it's actually on the network and talking to the internet directly. You can make that happen, or you can do it in a safe way in which they don't have any internet connectivity at all. VirtualBox allows you to have a sandbox of computers. You don't have to have broken computers that are hand-me-downs from IT. Unfortunately, the trade-off is that you kind of have to have a beefy-ish, again, 2016 is 5 years ago now. You're hitting that refresh cycle. Those computers that are hand-me-downs from IT are still going to be capable of doing all of this stuff. So don't be fearful about that in a lot of regards. So that's the point and purpose of VirtualBox and how we're going to use it. If you wanted to follow along, this is a 30-minute video by a guy, Network Chuck, on YouTube. He goes through why you should learn virtualization, how to learn virtualization. He walks you through installing the VirtualBox platform, and I appreciate it because he does the Kali Linux VM, which is what we're going to use. And he goes into a lot more exposition than I'm going to be able to go into in the next 5 minutes. Also, a lot more in depth than what we can really have time for in the class. Otherwise, it's the class about installing software. You know what I mean? So you can knock that out beforehand. I'd say if there was a hard requirement, this would be the hardest of the requirements. Please install this software, and I even say please, right? And please try to import the Kali box, the Kali VirtualBox image. So this video right here, 30 minutes, you don't have to watch that whole video. You can watch this 12-minute video that walks you step by step. You can pause this video, you can go back to it later. And this, let me click on it here. How to install Kali VirtualBox. It's somebody here, and they're gonna walk you through the process of going, it looks like, to the website. They show you which links to click, where to click on the page, all of that stuff. They hold your hand. This is a good video for you to be able to get that process started. So I think, what do they say here? Or I make a note here to say, always download the latest version of Kali. The video might be from 2018. No problem, Jennifer, thank you. The video might be from 2018. Don't download the version that they're talking about. Just download the latest version. I've been monitoring this document and making sure that it always works, basically. Before we hop off of here, I'm going to show you what it looks like to import an image as well. So I've already got it installed on my computer. That's not that hard. You go to the VirtualBox website and do that. It's virtualbox.org. And as it loads, that doesn't, why is that? Okay. So big blue button right in the middle. Click on it. Now, what it's telling me here, VirtualBox binaries. This is the part where it's a lot of text, a lot of little text. You just got to know that you're likely working on a Windows host. If you're running Windows operating system, that's what you install. If you're running a Mac or an Apple computer, you're going to run the OS X host. You click that, it's going to download. In my instance here, I clicked the Mac one, but I'm not on a Mac. So it's not going to do me any good to have that one. I'm also not on a Windows computer, so it's not going to do me any good to have it. But look what happens. I downloaded it, no harm, no foul. It's just not going to work. However, I am on a Linux distribution, and it takes me over here. And if you're on a Linux distribution, you're probably going to have an all right time with like understanding, knowing which package to install. But if you're at this point, you're doing fine. Don't stress over that. So that's I mean, the shortest way of getting it. Follow along in this video, or I'm sorry, in one of these videos to get, you know, to get the full experience. So those two would be the, like I said, the hardest requirements if there are hard requirements for the course. I also mentioned here, if you're bringing like a work computer, make sure you have admin credentials so you can install software. I don't want you to show up day of and then realize you can't install the software and then think you were going to have the experience and not be able to have the experience. That's why it's a pregame document. I want you guys to run through this beforehand to make sure that everything's going to go as smoothly as possible, and ask questions if it's not working out for some reason. One other thing that is useful to have, and this is useful as a good, I'll call it even free OPSEC tidbit right now. You can download Windows 10 virtual machines for free from Microsoft. They're legal for you to use for 90 days, and then you have to destroy them. Not a problem. If you had a sketchy link or a sketchy program or a sketchy website that you wanted to visit, you could do it inside of one of those and not risk compromising your host computer. When I say host computer, I mean to say the computer you care about by creating a virtual computer that you don't have to care about. So what I'm going to do is go over to the website. Oh no, what happened? All right, so this is one of them situations. Microsoft has a bad domain. Their certificate is registered to oneroute.microsoft.com, but this is modern.ie. Man, this is one of them things I'm gonna have to say, do as I say, not as I do. Proceed, unsafe. You guys know how to do that though. Press through to the website. It'll take you to the right place. It's just a redirect. You can get to the Microsoft website and navigate to this manually if you needed to. So what am I looking for here? I'm looking for virtual machines. They give you pre-built virtual machines, and that's a kind of a tool, right? We can use it as a tool. If we go to the tools menu at the top, there's virtual machines. Now it's asking us, okay, select one, virtual machine. I want the latest version of Windows I can get, which is Windows 10, and they're going to give me Windows 10 with Microsoft Edge, and its version is 1804. So it's an old machine, but it's free. You can't complain about that. The price is right. I'm going to hit MS Edge, and it's going to tell me or ask next, choose your VM platform. Well, we didn't install Parallels, did we? We didn't install VMware. We installed VirtualBox. And then it says download zip. This is a big file. You're going to want to download this before the class starts, if you want to download it at all. It's not required. If we're in person doing these things, I normally have these things as a backup on like a flash drive, and I pass them around the room, and people just blindly plug them in, trusting that I haven't infected them with malware. That's always fun. I'm a trustworthy individual. I said so. So does my mom, I guess. So you can download that image, and it's now available to you. You've got to extract it before you can actually use it. I'll go ahead and download it. It shouldn't take too long. It's 6.7 gigabytes. I'm very fortunate that I have the kind of bandwidth that allows me to get that within the next 5 minutes. And I recognize that not everybody has that. Again, the reason I want this to all take place weeks in advance, right? So let's see. This is your requirement. Notice that it's bullet 1, and then these are all sub-bullets. This is a link to it, a direct link, so you don't even have to search for it. Man, I made it easy. Great. So, and it gives you rough instructions there. Something that I always forget. Every time I re-import this thing, I never remember that this is the password. So I put this password here for me as much as I put it there for you. Because I'm still learning this stuff every day. There's always, you're an expert, a professional. What does that even mean? It means the check cleared and I got paid. I'm professional, right? So I'm joking, man. I'm trying to make that. Does humor disarm you truly? I don't know. I like to think it does. So
I do appreciate that you said that you were trustworthy, even though you iterated a few times that you got kicked out of every computer science lab as a kid.
I probably also told you that I'm a liar. There's that. So, all right. The second bullet point, after having a computer for the computer sciencey thing, if there's another requirement, this would be the hardest requirement. I need you to come with questions, something you want to know. I don't care what it is. I will help you try to know it. If it's how to write programs, I will help you try to know how to write programs. If it's how to install drivers, I will help you understand how to install drivers. If it's networking specific, I'm glad. I'll say a previous life network administrator. That's what I did for the chicken plant, right? Chicken factory, cybersecurity for the military, networking and system administration for the military as well. Worked in the healthcare industry, kind of as client support, and been in the hacking community again for, I guess, here in Fort Smith for the last 20 years, 15 years. So if you have questions about any of those things, I can have a conversation, right? I'm not an expert. I'm not an authority, any more so than maybe I just happen to have more experience, but that doesn't mean that my experience is more valid than someone else's. So at any rate, come with questions. And then a request, I'll call it not even a request. This would be a bit of advice to you. Have a second screen so that you're not having to alt tab between things. I know that some schools have pointed out, some teachers in districts that are having a hard time getting resources. I truly am sympathetic to that. I am. But the reality is that once you go to multiple screens, it's hard to go back. So I'm sitting here, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 different monitors, right? I've got this laptop that I'm communicating with you on, and I've got another laptop with 2 additional monitors connected to it. So a total of 4 screens. If I could have one more, I'd figure it out if I knew where it could fit on the desk. So there's that.
It's the laptop, or it's the iPad. You connect your iPad as a monitor.
You know, you can do that. You can do that. I have one that I carry around in my backpack that I could sort of put up on this rack that's next to it, and I'd have one more monitor. But I think that would be too precarious of a situation.
I usually have between 3 and 5.
Nice. I love it. Cool. All right. So on to the videos and resources. If you are totally green and you've got a spare, let me add these up. I should have added them up to tell you like how much time. But we can do math in public. 12 plus 9, 21, 28, 31, 30, 37. So 40 minutes of your life. And really not even that one, because how to install Cisco Packet Tracer, not required. So 35 minutes. And you can come away with a lot of interesting talking points, a lot of interesting questions. These videos are not to teach you anything, but to seed questions in your mind. Not that they're not to teach you anything. They are to teach you things. But I have them on here because I want you to say that, recognize that, oh man, maybe I didn't understand that. I can either do some self-study, I can jot this down, we can talk about it during the PD. I think that's where we're going to get the most out of this thing, is if it's as interactive as possible from you guys, and it's question driven. So I would say this video right here, have you guys encountered the Crash Course Computer Science videos from PBS, Digital Media? You guys? All right. So this one, it's a British lady. And so naturally she comes with like this, her accent has like exudes this sense of authority and that they in fact know what they're talking about. It's great. But she talks really fast. So that's the only, and I'm someone who talks kind of fast as well. That is the only critique that I would offer this video. But she gets you probably about 20 minutes worth of content in a 12-minute video. So that's the trade-off. It's free to pause on YouTube. They don't charge you anything. So you can definitely do that. You can also play it back slower. I'm big on communication and the notion of protocol and understanding how things communicate. I think that this is an interesting video. It sort of goes through, it breaks down the act of sending information from point A to point B. That's something that I'm going to harp on during the presentation because I think it's so important. Not from a technical perspective, but a lot of times bring it back to how do humans communicate, right? So, and I use the analogy of a telephone. I'll say, what's the first thing you do when you pick up a telephone? You say, hello, right? That's just the rules of the conversation. And so we'll spend some time talking about that. Whoops, cancel. We're also going to spend some time doing packet analysis. This is, maybe I need to even demote this one to yellow, but I think it's cool. It gives you an idea that to understand that communications can be intercepted and decoded using programs that already exist. It doesn't require sophisticated knowledge. You can buy off-the-shelf equipment, and by off-the-shelf equipment, I mean a Walmart computer, and that's it, and start monitoring network communications. So let's see. And then essential Linux commands. We're going to be dealing a lot with controlling your computer in a certain kind of way. And the operating system we're generally going to be using is Linux. And so it's helpful if you have the ability to understand how to interface with your computer through a textual interface as well as the graphical interface. Understand what that means, and then basically what it is to navigate through your computer. You guys know that there's a C drive on your Windows computer, or on your Mac. You have your, whatever named drive it is, and you can kind of click around. You can do the same thing with a terminal. This will give you all of those things. This is not the definitive source. This is just a source. And it'll give you a jumping off point, place to sort of seed questions. It kind of goes down from there. Again, Crash Course Computer Science, but for the concept of networking. This first video is cybersecurity. They talk about culture. They talk about Bell LaPadula model. They talk about the CIA triad, things of that nature. And so that video is probably more important than this video. But these two videos really break down how things communicate, and the purpose of communication, the scales of communication, again, at a conversation level, you'll be better armed to have a conversation about communication and then how to exploit the vulnerabilities that lie in the trust that people make about, or assumptions that people make about trustworthiness in their communications. More Linux commands. This is a 6-minute video right here. Again, you'll see there's something of a pattern, right? There's a longer video about just how the internet works, right? So you can have that conversation. And then an introduction to networking, networking fundamentals again. So networking is going to play a big part because interesting things live on other people's computer, right? And how are they connected? But by the internet. Okay, so more basic commands. Again, that one's, you don't even have to watch that video if you don't want to, but you can. If you're really feeling, you know, like you want to do something, explore these things. These things are called capture the flag events. Read about it. If you don't know what a CTF is, I encourage you to, after this call, hop off, look up CTF, explore, follow these links. I gave you this link, right? I did. Yeah. Yeah, and I see you're on the document, of course, naturally. Follow along, go to some of those websites, explore, just Google. So those are all like technical things you can watch, maybe more active consumption of media. These are going to be maybe a little more passive consumption. So I encourage people to listen to podcasts on their commute to work, just sort of immersion, right? If you have the opportunity to listen to a story, and these are interesting because I think these folks are great storytellers. The guy from Darknet Diaries, Jack Resider, they'll release a couple episodes a month. If you've got a 25-minute commute, you can listen the first half on the way to work, the last half on the way home from work. And I think that works out really well. I've called out some specific episodes that I think are of interest to you. The shadow brokers are about people who stole information from the NSA, hackers who stole information from the NSA's hackers. That's an interesting story, right? Operation Glowing Symphony is about a real life military operation from the commander of that military operation telling you about how they did things from point A to point B. So if you're into that kind of thing, and that's real nation state actors doing things against nation state actors, that's it right there. Triton, malware designed to kill human beings. Wow. All right, I'll leave it at that. Masters of Pwn. These people are people who are stunt hackers. They get up on stage in front of people and say, hey, we've spent 3 months working on this hack. We're going to hack this thing. You're going to give us whatever the competition is called, pwn to own. You hack a thing, you get to keep it. If you're the first to hack it, you get it. People have hacked Teslas, gotten Teslas. People have hacked MacBooks, gotten MacBooks. And then MS-0867, arguably one of the most prolific vulnerabilities that exist on a Microsoft network. And this is the story of this vulnerability, but from the perspective of the engineers at Microsoft at the time that it was announced. This caused a lot of headaches, and it makes the people a ton of money, legally and illegally. All right. Malicious Life. This is a guy, an Israeli gentleman, Ron Levy. They do great like historical analysis on cyber crime, cyber attacks, cyber happenings, if you will, hacker happenings. So that's a fun one. They, again, 2 to 3 episodes a month. The SANS Internet Storm Center, the ISC Internet Storm Center, they have daily episodes, 5 to 10 minutes long. This is going to be a little more technical in nature because that's just kind of the audience they're catering to. But if you wanted to know, oh, wow, there was a data breach that happened Monday of this week, you will have likely heard about it on ISC. So a couple of other channels. I need to throw John Hammond on here, but Live Overflow. I cannot recommend this highly enough. This guy, very technical in nature, but storytelling is his art. He is great at articulating things and running out of hacking video ideas, I need to link that as well. This is kind of a survey of every type of video that you could watch on this person's channel. So I'm sort of like saying the quiet part out loud here. That I lean heavily, I look up to this individual as a sharer of information. I cannot speak highly enough about these videos. They are very technical in nature, but they are also approachable. They are consumable. And he sort of articulates how that's lined out in this video. I need to make that available as a resource as well as the secure your server. Those two videos are interesting. I think I referenced this one in the PD even because it's about challenging assumptions, not so much protecting your server. It's about challenging your assumptions about protecting your server. So that being said, we'll press on from that. Network Chuck. Oops. Oh no. Again, long form videos. Sometimes they're 30 minutes, sometimes they're 10 minutes, sometimes they're 50 minutes. And they're generally pretty well produced, high energy guy. Maybe you like him, maybe you don't, but he has got a lot of good content and he does a good job explaining it. That's the end of the document. How much of that was anything that not watching, sitting on your duff, watching TV, right? Like it's pretty low key. I'm going to show you real quick how to import a Kali VM with any luck. So this is my thing here, and I'm going to do this. All right, I'm going to go up to this file, import appliance. Now yours is probably going to look a little bit different. Yours will look a little Windowsy, right? You'll have different color icons. Maybe your bar will be a different color. I'm going to tell it I want to browse. I downloaded the file. And then let's see, downloaded it. My Kali Linux OVA. I'm just going to where I downloaded that OVA file. That is the thing I'm looking for. .ova, Open Virtualization Appliance, OVA. Double click it, next. And so this is basically just loading all of the parameters about it. Here's where you can adjust the amount of RAM that your virtual machine has. Again, this is a real computer or a fake computer inside of a real computer. So if you had a real computer with 8 gigabytes of RAM, you could not give your fake computer 16 gigabytes of RAM. Stand to reason? If you had a real computer with 8 gigabytes of RAM, you could not give your fake computer 8 gigabytes of RAM. Why? Because the real computer needs RAM too. You're sharing resources. Likely what I could do is only give it 6,000 or 6 gigabytes. You can do the math. There's some computer science lesson in there for you. You can do the math to figure out exactly what is 6 gigabytes worth of memory. Roughly, I just do 6,000. It's whatever. By default, it starts with 2048. You can go with that. You could hit import right now and it'll work. I'm going to go ahead and do that to prove it to you. Import. This is, hey, don't even read it. Just hit yes. Now, depending on the speed of your computer, this part's going to take a while. Again, one of the reasons I don't want this done morning up, because we've got lots of things to do. Now, riddle me this, Batman. Do you think that I built in time to wait for people to do this during the PD anyway? Yes, I did. I did do that. Because it's still going to happen. Real life happens. Sometimes people can't do it. And again, I'm not about keeping people out of the cybersecurity conversation. So even if you showed up day of, you didn't have any of this done, not a problem. I'll see you there. So questions, comments, concerns? I know it's approaching, we're 10 minutes over at this point. Was this different than what you expected? I'm super open to feedback because this is the first time I've ever done this particular pregame to the pregame. I've just given people this document and said good luck in the past.
Definitely. I think it's helpful.
Okay.
And it puts a face, especially for people who haven't met you before or something like that. So
okay. Definitely
would agree with that.
Yeah.
I walked through the document when you sent it out and went through that first video on how to install a Kali Linux. And I got that far on it. So I've done this part, but a face is really nice because this is my first year teaching computer science. And as we said earlier, I'm doing it all. So it's,
yeah, I hear you.
Kind of a wide variety of things. So this helps.
So again, this is me. I didn't really pre-bake the turkey, Julia Childs style. I ran updates and restarted my computer just before this thing started. So I don't know if this is going to actually work. And if it does, don't let that be a reflection on, indeed it is working. Okay. All I did was double click it. I double clicked on the new thing that showed up. You guys will likely have nothing in this list if you've never done it before, right? I double clicked on the thing. It started some new thing. And then it gets to this. If you look here in the description, oops, you can see it gives you username Callie, password Callie. Username, and if I hit, let me click anywhere else in here, you see enter username, K-A-L-I, lowercase, K-A-L-I, hit enter. And oops. And I have a computer ready to go. When I say a computer, I mean a real computer. Look, I've got Firefox in there.
And so you could actually download software onto that machine there?
It's a real computer. Yeah.
And if it gets hacked, like if you went to a site that turned out to be sketchy,
yeah,
it would literally keep your real machine from having damage.
Yeah. I'll put a technical caveat. Yes, it can be damaged. Will it be? No, not really. Not likely anyway, right? It costs a lot of money for people to build nowadays. It costs a lot of money and expertise, and those things are worth a lot of money to break software like this. So criminals know that it's worth a lot more. Rather than stealing your credit card and potentially getting like 50 or $100 or whatever, they're likely going to sell it to an organization for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which isn't going to be targeting you. So it's about managing your threat model and understanding that. Yeah, absolutely. Use this to visit all the sketchy websites you want.
In this case, my threat model is my 9-year-old who is addicted to Skyrim and thinks he can mod stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because every time he does, something goes crazy on the computer. He doesn't realize that it's all connected in a bigger way.
Yeah.
So that's my threat model is my 9-year-old boy.
9-year-old. All right. So
the nice thing with this, from my experiences, you can go in there daily and just clone it. Make a clone of his operating system. He can go in there, mod it all he wants. If it messes it up, you delete the clone and go back to the one you just saved.
So that's what the snapshotting is. So if you follow along in the instructions in that modern.ie, they tell you to make a snapshot so that this is from Microsoft. Microsoft is telling you to make a snapshot so you can revert at the end of that 90-day windows. They are expecting you to use this virtual machine as part of what they call like continuous integration, continuous delivery, and testing of web applications to verify, like integration testing, to verify that this application you making works on a Windows computer. And so they give you a sandbox to play in. Now, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles installed, but there's no limit on what you can install on that particular virtual machine. You can now, the limit of virtualization is you are still sharing the resources of the computer. And more consequently is that by default, you don't have a video card. So you mentioned Skyrim. I don't want you to go away thinking, oh, I can install a VM out of the box and then start playing Skyrim. Can you? Yes. It takes a little more tooling. You've got to be able to do what they call like GPU pass through or share the video card that is in the host computer. Give it the resources. Give the virtual computer the resources of the real host computer. So it's not impossible. It just doesn't work out of the box that way.
No, just to know that that's even possible is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question, and this kind of run parallel with this or along with it, the Cyber Patriot competitions.
Yeah.
Like I've tried to do those for the past couple of years, and there's a lot of difficulties, but with access to the right machines and stuff, and I'm hoping this will demystify some of that. Mm-hmm. Like, what do I really need to run the virtual machines that they talk about?
Yeah.
But the second part is, like, I never even know what to tell my kids to do. Like, when we get in there and they say there's a machine on there that's been cloned, or there's an image on there, and I guess we're supposed to look for weaknesses, in our system and do things. And, like, other than like 3 or 4 really basic things like checking people's passwords, mm-hmm. We can't figure a lot of that out. And I'm just wondering if there's any way, I know that you already got a million things on here, but to tie some of that in there, because even if I didn't teach a whole class, to be able to take 5 kids and kind of work them through that, it seems like I could apply some of these ideas. So maybe, I'm hoping.
So this is the actual layout and the pacing guide that I built for myself to sort of show what we're going to talk about, where we're going to talk about it. So this is for you, and this addresses that very question. Day 2, we're going to end up talking about and implementing a lot of those actual hands-on things you can start to do and you can practice on those machines. So I started with day 2. Let me start with day 1. We're going to go through a lot of the same boilerplate that we have to go through. Oh, here's where your introduction slides are, and here's all this other stuff. You got to do that. Then we're going to move on to threat concepts. Then threat modeling. We're going to do a modeling lab, so you can spend some time actually. If you've never actually thought about what your threat model is, it's cool that you mentioned threat model. You said who your threat model was. We're going to spend some time expanding upon that, maybe for folks who have never done it, thinking about who am I actually attacking, being threatened by. What does that mean? Then we're going to take a hard turn and we're going to do a command line crash course. So even if you didn't watch those videos, you're still going to have some exposure to the command line, particularly the Linux command line. We're going to spend some time in a little bit of a lab. We're going to learn about what it is to witness an exploit and vulnerabilities. We're going to watch how the CPU works. That's a good video that I recommend. We're going to sign up for a website. We're going to learn about exploits and outcomes. These are the things you've heard about: buffer overflow, SQL injection, botnet, ransomware, things like that. We're going to learn about those at a conceptual level, what they are, a little bit about how they work. And then we're going to talk about just enough networking. These things are broken down into 15-minute blocks. You have an hour for lunch, 15-minute blocks, each one of these things. So, this is going to be conversation heavy, but there's lots of technical tidbits that you can take back as well. So don't look at all this and say, oh my God, there's no way that I could possibly learn everything. Is there everything you could learn in 15 minutes about ethics? No, right? There's semesters and degrees aligned to ethics. So understand that just because we're spending 15 minutes here does not mean that that's all there is to know about it is crammed into 15 minutes. Just not practical. We talk about staying legal, things of that nature. And then we talk about hacker methodology. This is how, and what I always like to say is like a competent adversary, TM, always will approach attacking a system, right? So we go through scanning, the 5-phase methodology that we'll go through, recon, enumeration, scanning, validation, things of that nature, exploiting the actual and actually breaking into the system, and what constitutes that actual violation. Then we talk about like what you do once you've broken into the house or broken into the car, right? And then again, we take a sharp turn, Python in 17 slides. So if you don't have any programming experience, I'm going to try to set you up for success with about an hour's worth of instruction on Python. If you already know Python, if you already have some programming experience, this will go easy. If you don't, I think we can get you there. All right. If you're not confident in your programming abilities, I think we can get you there, at least enough to follow along conceptually with what's happening. Then I have some homework that we'll assign you, give more opportunity to practice. Classic cybersecurity stuff, cryptography theory. Again, these are just sort of the head things you have to know. Like what is an encryption? What's the difference between encryption and encoding? Things like that. When do you use encryption? Yada, yada. We have some little challenges built in that I think are fun for you, hopefully. Then we have applied crypto, and that's like where the rubber meets the road, not just the knowledge stuff. It's actually like, how do I use this? How do I take this computer science concept and make it marketable? How do I use it for something that's more actionable? And so we end up building an encryption program, a program to encrypt files, encrypt text, a message, so on and so forth. Then we talk about digital forensics, and then I like to put in anti-forensics, so how to not get caught, right? And I think that's fine because I'm teaching you how to not get caught, because it's always nice to have that in your arsenal, right? I guess, I don't know. Then we learn about advanced adversaries and their tools, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, and how that all kind of comes together. And we talk about forensics, not just at the computer level, but at the network level and at the enterprise level, like the big picture of forensics. And network forensics is kind of like getting the big picture of what's happening during a cyber attack, as opposed to just the very micro vision, as opposed to the macro vision on just the computer itself. And we do that by, again, another lab, another hands-on opportunity to learn something, analyzing packet capture. That is to say, traffic traveling from one computer to another computer. That was all intercepted. And I'll show you how to intercept that. I'll show you how to analyze it roughly. And again, keep in mind, these are 15-minute windows. So are we giving you a college degree's worth of information in that 15 minutes? Likely not. All right, day 4. And so this one here, I'll show you what all this yellow means. And again, transparency, that's what I'm about here. Social engineering concepts. I'm going to show you the power of social engineering. You guys probably already familiar with it. You know it's easy to lie to someone conceptually. You say, oh, social engineering, I can just send a spam email. I can just send one. Well, people still click them. And I think it's because they don't know how easy it is. So we're actually going to show credential harvesting. I'm going to show you a tool that lives in that Kali VM that we're importing, a way to build a fake login to Google, send that email to somebody, and then hopefully steal their credentials, steal their Windows login information, or not their Windows login, their Google login information, right? Obviously not to be used for malicious purposes, but as a teaching opportunity for you. Again, we're trying to build better informed consumers, right? We want to teach them to look for the visual indicators of absurdity or weirdness. And because we spent some time learning Python, we're actually going to write malware. We're going to learn about malware concepts. We're going to write a piece of malware. We're going to explore what malware even is. We're going to talk about getting our malware on other people's computer. We're going to talk about making sure we can maintain communication with our malware. And then we're going to talk about binary analysis. Now, what does binary analysis mean? That actually means looking at computer programs. And we'll go into depth about that. Again, when I say depth, I mean 15 minutes worth of depth. It's a conversation. We're going to talk about it. There are going to be some technical tidbits because we have a binary analysis lab where I'll show you some tools where you can go through and actually start looking at other programs. You could look at the word.exe program and find out information about how it was made, what it does, how it operates. And so we'll do that. The last day, day 5, this is a 5-day PD in case you weren't aware. Last year it was 3 days. This has been sort of upgraded and powered up by the Computer Science Educators Academy, being part of that program. So now it's 5 days. You're welcome. Network architecture concepts. We're talking about how to build a network from the ground up such that it's, engineered to be safe, kind of like a Volvo is engineered to be safe, right? As opposed to a go-kart or something. I don't know. I'll show you a little bit more network forensics techniques, specifically about detecting the malware that we write. So we're building something right here. We're going to look for what we call like indicators of compromise and artifacts of communication, and then identify, is this malware present on our network? What are some things to look for? So if we have a very precocious student writing malware in our class, we might be able to help identify it, right? Not so that we can throw them in jail, but so that we can course correct. And then we get all the thing. Here we're talking about cyber ranges at UCA. We're talking about UALR. We're talking about the platform that we're going to be using for this particular PD, and some others. One of the big hits in this is mapping the current standards to curriculum. And the curriculum really needs to be in air quotes because I'm never going to tell you it's a curriculum. I'm going to tell you it's a collection of lessons and resources, because curriculum comes with like legal approvals and things of that nature. What I'm going to give you is something that is a way for you to cobble together your own resources and for you to feel empowered to go and build your own curriculum. Because at the end of the day, you guys are responsible for saying, yes, we're teaching the standards. And I'm trying to make that easy for you by helping you say, hey, this is a valid source of information, that it's a valuable source of information. Consider using it to teach this concept that's outlined in the standards. A bunch of hacker resources, things that are of interest to the hacker community here in Arkansas. And then we have this last lab of the day. You'll notice that it takes up the entire afternoon. I call it exit through the gift shop. That's how you get out of the PD. You are supposed to employ some of the tools, tactics, and procedures that you learn throughout the 4 days to hack your way out. I'm expecting that of you. So you're going to do the thing, not just learn about the thing. And if for some reason you want to stick around all the way to the end of the day, as you are required to, if you want to receive full credit, you will have a walkthrough. We're going to walk through and I'll talk about some ideas. This might take a couple of different forms. It'll either be a capture the flag event or a single monolithic challenge. I'm thinking the capture the flag event might be a little more engaging for people in the sense that it gives you opportunity to apply very specific skills at a smaller scale, not sort of gluing a bunch of things together. So I'm feeling, Alex, I might make an executive decision on that now. I think it's a cool idea. It might have to change the name because it's a very cool name and I don't want to burn it. Exit through the gift shop. So, all right, so that's the PD, y'all. Y'all got a preview of that. I don't know if I was planning. I had the tab open like I was going to talk about it. I don't know if I had planned on it or not. It took an extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes, but do you think it was worth it? Cool.
I do. I think it helps get an idea of where we're going to go with this.
Okay. Did it turn anyone off? And it's okay if it did. It really did. It is. Okay.
Hey, quick question about the whole Educator Academy. So when do we find out?
Yeah, soon.
Okay. So my other question is this, like, should we be signing, we shouldn't be signing up for these through the ASC Works or anything. We should just be waiting on the Academy in order to know that we're in it, or? If
you're doing it for the Academy, you'll have to wait for the Academy process because that's part of the selection.
Okay.
I understand. If you were doing this strictly to get PD hours, you can register through
you could just go.
Go through ASC Works. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. I gotta run.
At the end of the day, might still be the same technical process. Like, you still have to go register to EC Works, but there might be additional paperwork that's required. So I don't know the inner workings of that. That's above my pay grade in a lot of regards, or at least what we're allowed to say today. So
maybe you can answer this one question about it, though. I just want to clarify. So, like, if we've already passed our praxis, if we've gone through the 2-week boot camp, we've passed our praxis, and we have the 528 thing on our license, we're not doing 2 weeks in June, correct? We'll just be doing 3 sets of classes in July, or I don't know if it stretches on past that because they told me to ask to rank all these things, and some of them don't even have a PD for this summer.
You'll satisfy those hours through the 3 advanced trainings since if you already hold the 528 on your license.
Correct.
If you don't already hold the 528, then you'd attend the first 2 weeks and 1 advanced training. And if you and I'd be happy to send this to you, Mr. Matthews, but there's we have some documentation that kind of explains all of the caveats of all of this, from the process to everything else, and a lot of that's in the commissioner's memo.
Well, I'd read all that. I just wanted to be clear about that I don't have to do anything in June. It's just going to be 3 different weeks in July. whether they're virtual or in person, however that works out. But
yeah. If you have a
3 of those,
if you have a 528, it's pretty much just hit the advanced trainings.
okay,
Cool.
So, and you're in the academy as well. Again, it's not a requirement if you're doing the academy, and
Right.
you'll find out when you get accepted to that soon enough. So,
I don't
And
think
also, and just a reminder for those of you who are attending the academy or planning to attend the academy, just to remember that you have to also be approved for the graduate hours. You also have to go through Arkansas Tech to receive those as well. And I'm sure y'all have already seen all of that documentation and everything as well. So.
Well, that was part of why, like Mr. Limbaugh was saying, I haven't heard if I'm officially in the academy or not, and I haven't done anything with Arkansas Tech because there was no "you're officially in there" yet. So
right, you should be hearing back soon, like Eli said.
Yeah, that was Keith. I didn't do the academy. I didn't apply for it because I didn't know how it worked, and I've got the 528 certification. I just passed the practice on it, and I had stuff going in June, so there was no way I could attend any of the academy stuff in June. So it's like, I need the 3 advanced things. So I wanted those, and I didn't know what that academy would cover.
And it's not too late to sign up for the academy. If you still want to do it, you still can.
I'm going to be out of state. I can't do the June stuff.
Oh no, and almost all of the, I believe all of the
advanced are in July.
Oh, I've got all 3 of the advances signed up.
So
I've already
you could still sign up for the
academy so that you get and my understanding is correct. Even if I might have to talk to you about that offline, Alex. If you're not at the ATU sessions, do you get the other credits?
You should. I believe so.
Okay. So yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. Sign up for the Educator Academy, even if you're only doing the advanced, if you have your 528. I didn't want to say that part and give anyone any false hope. But understanding is, if you're
I will check in on that too. And if I'm mistaken, then I will definitely get back to you on that. Yeah. But
if you're going to be doing all 3 of those things anyway, fill out the paperwork, get 6 graduate credit hours.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I'll do that. Like I said, I didn't do it initially because I was like, I'm not going to be here to attend that. And all of the original stuff was in June. And I'm like, I can't do any in person.
Cybersecurity was originally in June. And so now that it's all in July, that does sort of clean that up a bit. So,
and there are a couple of trainings that will be in person. I know I'm doing a robotics training that's going to be in person. Doesn't mean you have to attend that one and pick that one.
It too is going to be awesome.
I hope so.
Where are you doing that at?
So I believe we're doing that at Arkansas Tech as well. I can get back to you. Do you plan on doing that one, Vince?
I really want to do it because I've taught a robotics 1 for a couple of years with a kind of curriculum that I cobbled together. But I don't really have a good year 2 or year 3 that follows it up. I've got
really that's the target audience for that as well. So, hopefully that'll give you everything you need.
And will y'all be using kind of like the VEX system, or
we're going to use a few different things. We are going to leverage VEX. We're going to leverage Arduinos and a lot of different sensors and things that we're going to do breadboarding with. I don't want to get too deep into it and spoil a lot of it because I'm really excited about it, but we are going to be using a lot of different resources because the truth of the matter is a lot of teachers are using a lot of different things. And, to meet their needs, and they may have picked a resource because they're more comfortable with that resource. Really, the idea is the big takeaway for that PD is it really doesn't matter what you use as long as you get the main concepts that come out of that PD.
Well, no, I was excited about that because the way TSA also does a VEX competition. And so we've done FIRST for a few years, but we were kind of thinking about moving over to the VEX. It just seemed like that the TSA competitions and the VEX would kind of align, and that would give us some multiple opportunities to get to state that we can't seem to get out of FIRST.
Right.
And so
VEX, I did VEX for 8 years in South Carolina. It's a ton of fun, and the kids really enjoy it. It's a bit of money up front, but on a yearly basis, once you have the standard equipment, you're pretty set, and that's a really nice part.
I would love to do that, but I have the challenge of my students are everywhere in the state.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I can tell y'all, when I was in the classroom, I did Vex for quite a few years. It's not the only platform that I use. It's not the only resource that I use, but my kids loved it. And you know, he was right. Once you get in it, there's not a whole lot of you have that initial cost, and then as long as you make sure that the kids are really taking care of everything, you're pretty well good to go from there on out. And it's a different thing every year. So
yeah, the competitions are a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen, I got to run. Eli, thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. So if you guys don't have any questions, man, we're gonna get out of here. So
okay, thank you.
No,
guys.
I just got to find that link for the academy again. So
all right, stick around. I'll find it.
Yeah, it's in the newsletter.
I know it's somewhere.
Yeah, actually, I think I have it open.
Like I said, I didn't sign up for it because I was like, I'm not going to be anywhere in June that I can be personal. I got to go to Idaho for some important family stuff. And it's like,
so I have the newsletter. I'll put the newsletter link in chat. Okay. And then it's down in the actual description for the educator. I think the last thing is interested candidates must apply. And there's the survey right there.
I don't.
All right. Again, thank you guys so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I'm sure we'll see you this summer.
Thank you.
I will get that application.
Y'all have a great afternoon.
See you guys later.
We'll see you guys.
Bye.